Hey everyone, so today we're going to be talking about the business cycle. And before I get into what's on the screen, I want to just talk about what it is, how it works. So specifically, one key thing that we all need to understand is that the economy isn't constant. It's not constantly being the same, it's not constantly decreasing, and it's not constantly growing. There are slow, then steady ups and downs that always happen inevitably as a result of the business cycle. And that's what the business cycle tries to describe. Because you've heard of times where we've had deep economic troubles, such as recessions. Just a couple of years ago during COVID, we lost a lot of jobs. The economy was kind of in the dumps, as a lot of the news outlets said. But soon after that, we saw high inflation or the rising of prices. More people got jobs, people could get more stuff, and that pushed prices up. And that relationship between recessions and expansions is what the business cycle tries to describe. And it does so using a cyclical model. Because the most important thing to realize here is that the economy is periodic, it's cyclical, it repeats over and over and over again. So let's look at the parts of the business cycle. Let's start with a expansion actually, because that is going to help us understand what's happening. Here, the economy in this blue area, the economy is growing. That's really important because it means that more people are getting jobs, so unemployment is decreasing and price levels are going higher, as I mentioned earlier. So inflation is also increasing. What that means is that we're in so-called good economic times. But what's important to note is that this isn't fully sustainable because when prices are at a certain level, what happens then is we reach the peak. This is where unemployment is the lowest, prices are the highest, and we're slowly but surely going to come crashing down soon enough. Everything is at its highest point right now, as seen with the physically being on the highest point. Now, what comes after the peak? Well, with high prices, people can't afford as much. So now we have what's called a recession. This is commonly heard of on the news, right? Where people are losing their jobs, so unemployment is increasing and price levels are slowly falling. This happens especially during other shocks where the economy is closed, such as during COVID or even in the 2008 recession, which happened through bubbles. But they also happen naturally, slowly, and surely. So the expansion is basically the direct opposite of the expansion. Whereas in an expansion, the economy was growing, now it's contracting. And finally, here, all the way at the bottom, we have a trough. The trough is the opposite of the peak. Everything is at its lowest, and as in lowest traditionally, as in we have unemployment being the highest, the least people are employed, and the price levels are at the lowest. And then once again, after we're at the lowest, the only way that we can go is up. So now we're in this next expansion, and then we hit the next peak, the next recession, and then the next trough. Recessions are also called contractions when they're less severe. So with that said, it's important to note that the economy continues going up and down and up and down and up and down. At no times is it fully constant. Now, you might be noticing if the economy goes up and down only, why isn't a flat curve? As in, why is it not just like this? Why are we tilting it upward? Well, the reason that we tilt it upward is that even though, yes, we have these things where the economy goes up and down, where it reaches its maximum sustainability, where it overreaches on that sustainability, and when it comes down to below sustainability, even though we have all of that occurring, outside of that, more broadly, on the long-term, broader picture, we also have long-term economic growth, which is a more sustained increase in the production capacity of the economy. Where I'm not saying that we're producing more at this point in time, but what I am saying is that with economic growth, we have the capacity to produce more in the long run than what we did before. So each successive peak is higher than its previous one. Each successive trough is higher than its previous one as well.